My sister's bridal shower was on a Saturday in late April, and I remember the centerpieces were made of white peonies and eucalyptus, and the ribbon on each chair was tied in a perfect bow, and the whole thing had cost more than I made in a month. I sat at that table in a yellow dress I'd bought on clearance, and smiled until my face hurt, and I thought, this is fine, this is normal, families do things like this. I thought that for almost 2 years. I was wrong about almost all of it. My name is Delia Marsh. I'm an accountant. I drive a 2014 Civic with a cracked dashboard, and I had spent 4 years saving $41,000 toward a house down payment. In the fall of that year, I asked my parents for a $9,000 loan to close the gap. Not a gift, a loan. I had a repayment schedule printed. My mother held my hand and said they were so sorry. Things were tight. They just didn't have it. My father nodded the whole time. I folded the repayment schedule, put it in my bag, and sat in my car in the parking lot for 22 minutes before going inside. I found out on a Tuesday in February. A colleague forwarded a property transfer document as a throwaway attachment. The document was a deed of trust, a second mortgage filed against my parents' house. The origination date was 11 months before our kitchen table conversation. The loan amount was $62,000. I pulled the county records. Vanessa and her husband Kyle had purchased a home requiring a 20% down payment on a $248,000 purchase, $49,600. The remainder covered the bridal shower. The second mortgage had been signed before my parents ever sat across from me and said there was nothing available. I called my Aunt Patricia, who told me the decision had not been spontaneous. It had been planned over months. My request had arrived, as she put it, at an inconvenient time. There was no emergency fund. There was just the house and a decision about who deserved what it could offer. I am not the villain of this story for what I did next. I called a real estate attorney named Susan Cho. I told her what I had. She told me that if assets had been deliberately depleted to favor one heir while actively misrepresenting financial capacity to another, there were grounds for an equitable distribution claim under Pennsylvania law, and that the affirmative misrepresentation at the kitchen table gave us something real to work with. She told me to keep documenting. I already was. I went to see my parents on a Sunday in April. We sat in the living room. My mother said things were fine, much better. My father looked at the carpet. I said, casually, the second mortgage must have helped. The room went very still. What followed lasted 40 minutes. No shouting. My family doesn't do that. My mother moved through denial, partial acknowledgement, a lengthy explanation of Vanessa's circumstances, and finally something that was almost but not quite an apology. She never said she was wrong. She said she had done what she thought was best for the family. I said, I needed $9,000. I had a repayment schedule. You let me sit at that table and told me you were broke. You had already signed the mortgage papers. My father started to say something. I looked at him. He stopped. I left the lemon cake on the counter. Susan Cho filed a civil complaint the following week. The second mortgage had been drawn against a jointly held asset and used to fund a preferential transfer, actively concealed through financial misrepresentation. When we notified the lender that the loan application had materially understated existing obligations, they found that significant. My parents' attorney, a man named Gerald Pruitt, who once fell asleep during document review and woke up without acknowledging it, told my parents clearly that settling was advisable. They settled. The $49,000 transferred to Vanessa and Kyle was formally recognized as an advancement against their inheritance, documented in an updated estate instrument. My parents agreed to fund an equivalent advancement to me, $9,000 of which Vanessa and Kyle contributed directly, at their own offer, and the remainder structured as a formal documented loan against the same estate instrument. It was not poetic justice. It was the best available version of fairness applied retroactively to a situation that should never have required a civil filing. I closed on my house in September. 3 bedrooms, quarter-acre, quiet street.